Good evening. Today we're going to be doing the VeroScope forensic linguistic analysis of Kerry Roberts in the Karen Reid trial. If you're unfamiliar with who Kerry Roberts is, this is Kerry Roberts, who was a main witness in the trial against Karen Reid, who was accused of the killing of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, who was a Boston cop. We'll very quickly take a look at Kerry on the witness stand, which will give us a view of who she is before we go into the analysis.
If you could describe to the jury sort of where was everybody seated in your car when you did it?
I was driving, Karen was in the back seat, and Jen was in the passenger seat.
And as far as Ms. McCabe's sister's house, at the time, did you know where that was or who her sister was or anything like that?
I didn't even know she had a sister.
And
okay, so that's Kerry Roberts. Let's get on with the actual analysis. For those who are new to forensic linguistics and statement analysis, we use a key, a map key, and if you have time to pause the video, you can go through that in more detail. But some of the immediate findings as we go through her 911 call. Oh, and Kerry Roberts, by the way, made the first 911 call. Some people might have already heard the Jen McCabe 911 call at the actual scene. But before that call happened, Kerry Roberts made her own call before they discovered John O'Keefe. So this is very, very interesting as to what we can learn from that phone call. We have a repetition of I don't know. We have some speech disruption due to cognitive load, and we have an inappropriate laugh. But to sum it up, this call demonstrates significant linguistic stress markers, including speech disruption when she talks about her husband. In particular, that's at the highest stress levels because her husband was out drinking with John O'Keefe and others that evening. And a lot of I don't knows and a lot of distancing through third party pronouns and that inappropriate laughter that we mentioned before. So let's hear the call and then we'll go into more detail. Perhaps we'll hear the whole call at first and then we'll slow down and go through the analysis.
Can't please sound good.
Hi, my name is Terry. I'm calling because my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night. They were at waterfall, and now she is calling me hysterical because she doesn't know where he is. You didn't pick anybody up by the name of John O'Keefe, did you?
John O'Keefe?
Yeah, he's a Boston cop, and he would be on point, but...
No.
I think he probably got a ride and passed out at someone's house. I don't know, but...
Yeah, no, we didn't lock anybody up or anything like that. And where does he live?
He lives on Meadow, right off the Pleasant.
He lives on Meadow, off of Pleasant. Okay, and where's the wife home? You said his girlfriend?
With his girlfriend, yeah. They were out having drinks, and then she left and expected him to come home at some point, and he never did.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, you know, my husband had been out with him earlier in the night, but then he came home, and he has custody of his niece and nephew because their parents passed away.
Okay.
And so she's home with the niece and nephew, and they're old enough to be home. It's just she's nervous because he never even called the niece.
Yeah.
So she's like, I feel like something happened, and I said, okay. Well, so call the area hospital if nobody happened. I personally think someone probably picked him up and he passed out. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Did he didn't drive last night?
No.
No. Okay. Again, it's more, it would be driven by you. She would have to, call in or come to the station and talk to us. But I mean, as of right now, it's more, he just didn't come home last night. Is this common sometimes?
Yeah.
Happen with him?
No. That's why. That's
yeah.
Because he didn't call his niece. That's kind of why she's more freaking out. So I figured I called the area hospital. I said I would call Canton Police just to make sure he didn't get picked up. But like I said, he's a Boston police officer. He knows a bunch of people. Anybody could pick him up.
Yeah.
Take it off.
Okay.
Apparently they were having a birthday party of some sort.
Yeah, no,
I don't know.
unfortunately, I wasn't there. I was stuck here. But we didn't get any calls, anything like that. Nobody was arrested or anything like that.
Okay.
All righty.
All right, well, thank you.
All right, no problem. Good luck.
Okay,
See ya.
thank you, bye-bye.
Okay, so that's the call. Let's go through in more detail now and break this down forensically. So, Kerry Roberts begins with introduction. In 911 calls, this is unusual, and so we put a flag in it and we note it as unusual social introduction into the 911 call. I'm calling because my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night. They were at the waterfall. And now she is calling me hysterical. So we have slight cognitive load and linguistic mistake. So we put a flag in it. And also we have a temporal lacuna. So we have slight missing time from before. So we put a flag in it. If you're new to forensic linguistics, individual flags don't mean anything per se. However, we flag everything that we note, and then we look for clusters and superclusters of flags and unusual patterns. Because she doesn't know where he is. Did you pick anybody up by the name of John O'Keefe? Did you? And the dispatcher, John O'Keefe? Roberts. Yeah, he's a Boston cop and he would be on foot. So here we have knowledge of his potential situation. No, says the dispatcher. Robert says, I think he probably, so we note these minimizations, got a ride and passed out. This is very interesting language. So she says, I think he probably got a ride and passed out at someone's house. Now, we don't know what level of information Kerry Roberts has. We would assume that McCabe has spoken to her, and we would assume that her husband, who was out drinking with them, has spoken with her, but we don't know what level of information she has. But she has enough to think that he probably got a ride and passed out at someone's house. But then immediately says, even though she thinks this, she then decides that actually, no, I don't know, but. But this terminology here, passed out at someone's house, this is the same terminology that McCabe uses on her 911 call. In fact, McCabe uses this phrase, passed out, twice on her 911 call. And as we go through this particular analysis with Roberts, we also see that she uses the same phrase, passed out, and also uses it twice. And mathematically, it's unlikely to have occurred. And so it points towards discussing what they're going to say on these calls beforehand, which is concerning. So we have immediate distancing, my friend's boyfriend, avoiding using John O'Keefe's name initially. And we have second-hand reporting. She is calling me hysterical. So here we see the cognitive load and the linguistic error. We have double becauses, explaining without being asked, indicating high sensitivity. And we have speculation, probably got a ride and passed out. And we have the beginning of a pattern, of, even though she says, I think, we then have we have the beginning of a pattern where she then backtracks, denies it, and says, I don't know. She's very sensitive to communicating that she doesn't know anything. I believe that she says it a total of 6 times in a very short 911 call. So do you notice immediately, if you're learning forensic linguistics and statement analysis, how the words themselves can rapidly bypass you unless we slow down and analyze carefully? So, the dispatcher. Yeah, no, we didn't lock anybody up or anything like that. Where does he live? Did you notice that there was a slight pause on when Roberts decided to give the information that she knows where he lives? He lives on Meadow, right off Pleasant. Dispatcher repeats it. Asks, you said a girlfriend. Roberts, it's his girlfriend, yeah. They were out having drinks and then she left, so Karen is reduced to a pronoun. Him, John, is reduced to a pronoun, to come home at some point, and he never did. Dispatcher, yep. And so I said to her, and here we have extreme cognitive load and extreme stress and extreme sensitivity. And it occurs at the point where she first introduces her husband. And so I said to her, you murmur, or however she says it, we'll play it again. My husband had been out with him, being John. So John's name is removed. Earlier in the night, so we have missing time, missing information in the time. But then he, obviously referring to her husband, he showing sensitivity again. So the whole sentence with her husband, his whereabouts and her husband's timeline is extremely sensitive to her. And it shouldn't be. If this is just a genuine checkup call or beginning, she shouldn't have this sensitivity about her husband's whereabouts and time during the night. It's very sensitive. And he, so we have confusion of gender, has custody of his niece and nephew. Reason why? Because their parents passed away. Unnecessary language in the 911 call. So we have a major breakdown. Shall we hear the 911 call again? I think that would be worthwhile.
I'm good.
Hi, my name is Kerry. I'm calling because my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night. They were at Waterfall, and now she is calling me hysterical because she doesn't know where he is. You didn't pick anybody up by the name of John O'Keefe, did you?
John O'Keefe?
Yeah, he's a Boston cop, and he would be on foot, but...
No.
I think he probably got a ride and passed out at someone's house. I don't know, but...
Yeah, no, we didn't lock anybody up or anything like that. And where does he live?
He lives on Meadow, right off the Pleasant.
He lives on Meadow, off of Pleasant. Okay, and where is the wife home? You said his girlfriend?
With his girlfriend, yeah. They were out having drinks, and then she left and expected him to come home at some point, and he never did.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, you know, my husband had been out with them earlier in the night, but then he came home, and he has custody of his niece and nephew because their parents passed away.
Okay.
And so.
Okay, so we take note of the word left in forensic linguistics. In this case, we would put a flag in it, but we wouldn't pay too much attention to it. when somebody leaves and the word left is used by the individual who has left, it can very often signify, the normal, perhaps they're a bit late, but it can also signify tension. So leaving or the word left can signify something happened. So in this instance, we just put a flag in it and we don't pay an awful lot of attention, partly because it's also secondhand. But this is concerning. Her enormous sensitivity about her husband and her husband's timeline during the evening. And the unnecessary language and the cognitive breakdown of gender, and here this enormous cognitive breakdown and stress before introducing her husband to the statement. So let's carry on. Roberts says, and so, reason why, sensitivity marker, flag goes in. She's home with the niece and nephew, and they're old enough to be home. Unnecessary language. It's just minimization language, in goes the flag. She's nervous because, reason why, he never even called the niece. Dispatcher, yeah. So she's like, I feel like something happened. So here we have, when we see the word like, we immediately know it's not exactly what occurred or exactly the feeling or exactly the words. So we put a flag in whenever we see the word like. It's a high deceptive marker. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is, but we put in the flag. So she's like, I feel like something happened. And I said, okay, well, so, deceptive marker, reason why. I called the area hospital. Nobody has him. I personally think he probably, someone probably, to see the pattern, for those who have been watching the previous videos and learning forensic linguistics, we're beginning to see patterns that we've seen before. I personally think, so she's building up courage, I personally think he probably abandoned, someone probably picked him up. Isn't this interesting? And he passed out. So we sometimes look for psychological leakage and knowledge of actual events that come out under stress and cognitive load unconsciously. So here we have, I personally think, and then she abandons the strength of her personal thoughts. He probably, and then minimizes it slightly, someone, and then here we have extreme sensitivity for who the someone is, combined with her sensitivity of her husband, who wasn't present in the house where the killing happened, but she's sensitive to it. I personally think he probably, someone probably picked him up and he passed out. And here we have high sensitivity again. I don't know. So this is concerning. This is the first 911 call, and the questions that are happening in my mind are, how many phone calls has she received? Who from? What information has she been given? What has McCabe said to her? Because we've already listened to McCabe's 911 call that also has the passed out twice in it, same as Kerry Roberts uses the phrase passed out twice. But this is very concerning. I personally think abandoned. He probably abandoned. Someone probably picked him up and he passed out. So the theory that some people have is that John O'Keefe was killed inside the residence of 34 Fairview, and that someone probably picked him up because he had passed out and placed him in the snow. And then we have McCabe's Google evidence where she asks Google how long to die in the snow, and then denies that later on in her testimony and says that she actually Googled that later. Very concerning, isn't it? Okay, let's carry on. Yeah, I don't know. Where did he sensitivity? So this is the dispatcher. They're talking over each other slightly. And then the dispatcher. Let's just slow down so I don't miss anything. So we had the triple I don't know, followed by the emphatic I don't know. The double probably. The reported speech quoting Karen's concern, which she uses the phrase like, because it's not the exact concern. And then she introduces into this 911 call that she's already taken proactive action by calling hospitals. And then we have the dispatcher. Okay. Again, it's more, it would be driven by you, believe he says. She would have to, call in or come to the station. So he's essentially saying that Karen needs to do something and talk to us. But as of right now, it's more, he just didn't come home last night. Is this common sometimes with him? Roberts. No. High sensitivity. That's why. Again, very sensitive. Cause he, we have cognitive load confusion as to who it is. Didn't call his niece. That's kind of why she's more freaking out. So I figured I'd. So here we have a small pattern of abandoned thoughts. And sometimes when we see this pattern, there is deception afterwards. So we see the abandoned thought. I figured I'd called the area hospitals. I said I would call Canton Police. Just minimization to make sure he didn't get picked up. But like I said, he's a Boston police officer. He knows a bunch of people, unnecessarily language. Anybody could have picked him up. So she's minimizing the call's urgency. She's deliberately minimizing the call's urgency. Interesting. So she's got high sensitivity combined with minimizing urgency. Okay, so the dispatcher, because of this, is having certain thoughts. We have the quadruple negative, which is unusual. That's why. The processing stress, the high sensitivity, gender confusion, she, he, again, cognitive load stress, which she shouldn't have on a standard call. To be fair, with Karen being, in her words, freaking out, there is a reason for some stress, but not to the degree that she's showing cognitive load. Anybody could have picked him up. So she starts to minimize and uses the Boston police officer and how many people that he might know as a part of the minimization. We then have the blizzard party and the inappropriate laughter. Apparently, we always look out for this word apparently. Apparently they, who were they, were having a blizzard party of some sort, ha 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 ha. Yeah, no, I don't know. Again, the sensitivity for this denial. So she knows something. McCabe, and possibly her husband, has communicated something which is causing this immense stress on this supposed 911 call to welfare check type of call. Dispatcher introduces some levity because of the laughter here, so he is gaining rapport. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, I was stuck here, but we didn't get any calls, anything like that. Nobody was arrested or anything like that. So he's calming her down with rapport, well-trained officer to some degree. Roberts, all right, well, thank you. This is unusual in a genuine, authentic 911 call. The overemphasis on bye-bye, thank you, it's not common in these types of calls. You would need to listen to 500 of these 911 calls to see that. It's very uncommon. However, it's very common in inauthentic calls because people ingratiate themselves. So we have the two passed out comments that she makes, which matches McCabe's two passed out comments in her 911 call. Some sort, apparently, the final I don't know, the polite closing. Okay. So there's a violation. The FBI have various criteria for authentic and inauthentic 911 calls, and this ingratiation is part of the inauthentic list. Yeah, this repeating of the passed out theory, which she shouldn't have as a third party. But very concerning is the fact that McCabe uses the same language, and the fact that Robert says that she thinks that he was picked up and passed out, which is linguistically the same pattern which would reveal itself if somebody said that they took John out of the house, passed out, and laid him on the snow. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of this analysis. We have concerning patterns. If you have time to pause the video and read all of this, please do so, and in the comments, give your own findings. So, critical linguistic finding. The most significant linguistic event occurs when Roberts attempts to discuss her husband's involvement. And we have that extreme sensitivity. My husband had been out with him earlier in the night. Okay. So if she's aware of possibly what has happened from McCabe and others with the telephone calls and the jungle drums beating in this traumatic event, her concern is for her husband, which is natural and normal, but indicates awareness. This represents extreme cognitive load. The brain is struggling to process what to say and how to say it. The breakdown occurs specifically when connecting her husband's timeline to the narrative, suggesting this information carries significant psychological weight. combined with 6 instances of I don't know, inappropriate laughter during the blizzard party, the linguistic patterns indicate Roberts is managing information disclosure rather than making a straightforward missing person inquiry. The call exhibits multiple linguistic indicators of information management. These patterns, when considered together, suggest the caller is carefully managing what information to disclose rather than making a straightforward welfare check request. The speech breakdown specifically at the husband timeline reference point indicates this is the area of highest sensitivity. Okay, very good. If you've enjoyed this analysis, please do follow and please do press the notification bell, as that sends the algorithm the highest signal of intent and helps to share this analysis with others. That would be very much appreciated. Okay, look forward to speaking to you in the comments.